There's a federal agency here in D.C. whose job it is to crack down on people breaking campaign finance laws.
And you'd think they'd be busy investigating during this contentious 2016 election season, wouldn't you? But tonight, Tisha Thompson and the News 4 I-team show you why some members of the Federal Election Commission are now calling their agency dysfunctional and broken.
These 6 people
We had a concrete proposal.
hold tremendous power.
I agree with my colleagues on this side of the table.
This is the Federal Election Commission.
Agenda item number 9.
One independent
That's a sensible approach.
who often votes with the 2 Democrats
What would stop them?
versus the 3 Republican commissioners
That motion fails by a vote of 3 to 3.
who regularly vote on whether they should authorize an investigation into possible campaign violations. But to do that takes at least 4 votes, and a growing number of critics from both parties say that commissioners often deadlock, preventing investigations from moving forward.
People know that they can stretch the law and pretty much violate the law.
Ann Ravel is one of the FEC's Democratic commissioners.
When people go to vote, should they have confidence that the Federal Election Commission did its job?
I don't think the voters can have that kind of confidence.
Ravel says they take all kinds of votes during these meetings and often vote 6-0 on administrative matters or to dismiss a case with no merit. But Ravel says when it comes to potentially precedent-setting cases that could truly impact elections, the Republicans always vote as a bloc, preventing an investigation. She points to a complaint filed against the Ready for Hillary PAC during the Democratic primary.
Democrats voted to investigate, and the 3 Republicans voted not to.
Both sides gave the News 4 I-team different stats on their votes and the results of those votes. In our independent analysis of all closed cases they voted on since the beginning of 2015, we found the Republicans did vote as a bloc 98% of the time, only breaking rank 4 times when Commissioner Lee Goodman recused himself. In comparison, the other 3 commissioners voted as a bloc in 87% of the votes.
When we come back,
We repeatedly asked all of the FEC commissioners for a sit-down interview. 2 of the Republicans, Goodman and Carolyn Hunter, wouldn't talk to us at the FEC's most recent public meeting.
I'm just hoping to get a comment.
But Republican Chairman Matthew Peterson did agree to meet us in the hallway.
The cases where we've had a disagreement are based on a disagreement over what the law requires and prohibits, and there have been a number of court cases which have redefined the landscape in significant ways.
Peterson did not deny voting as a bloc, but disagreed the FEC was letting potential violators off the hook.
I would strongly dispute that allegation and don't agree with it at all.
It's dysfunctional.
Mark Everson is the Republican presidential candidate you've probably never even heard of.
I'm a former IRS commissioner who ran for president in 2016.
He says deadlocks aren't the only problem. The FEC also takes too long to get to those votes. He filed a complaint when he wasn't allowed to participate in the first Republican debate last year and waited 11 months for the commission to vote, long after he dropped out of the race.
What they did with my case, they clearly indicated that time is not of the essence.
Why is timeliness so important?
Timeliness is critical because these events happen very quickly.
When the I-team sorted through all those votes taken by the FEC since 2015, we found it takes an average of 22 months for the commission to decide whether it'll even launch an investigation, with some complaints languishing for nearly 5 years before getting that critical vote.
I think all of us would agree that we need to do a better job, and I think that we have done a better job this year at getting through those matters.
Some of the cases go back to 2012.
That you're currently looking at?
Yes.
Ellen Weintraub is a Democratic FEC commissioner appointed by Republican President George W. Bush.
And I'm willing to throw anything in that will get 4 votes.
Weintraub said she tried to introduce a motion last year forcing them to take a vote within 6 months. But that vote also deadlocked 3-3.
We can't pass rules, we can't enforce the law, and for folks out there who are in a high-stakes political game and are inclined to push the rules, they see that there's no real cop on the beat.
Critics say the deadlock is also costing all taxpayers' money because the FEC is now being sued over that inaction. That part of our investigation is coming up tonight at 11. To see some of the cases that commissioners have disagreed on, go to our NBC Washington app. And while you're there, give us your thoughts on our story. Tisha Thompson, News 4 I-Team.
Well, you might think the federal government is actively investigating political cheaters, the people accused of breaking campaign election laws.
But tonight, Tisha Thompson and the News 4 I-Team show us why a growing number of critics say the Federal Election Commission is deadlocked and failing to do its job.
And how that inaction is now ultimately costing the taxpayers, you, money.
This is Paul Ryan. No, not that Paul Ryan leading the Republicans in Congress.
Truly nonpartisan.
This Paul Ryan brings cases against some of those Republicans and Democrats if he thinks they violated campaign laws.
We sue Democrats and Republicans, we complain about them all, and none of them like us.
Ryan says he spent his entire career trying to ensure elections are fair by bringing violation complaints to the Federal Election Commission.
The FEC is atrocious at enforcing our campaign finance laws.
A News 4 I-Team investigation found the 6 FEC commissioners often deadlocked, resulting in no action on potentially precedent-setting cases.
That has then resulted in us needing to sue the FEC and drag the FEC into court and try to convince a judge that the FEC wasn't doing its job or didn't do its job by refusing to even open an investigation.
Ryan says the FEC is wasting taxpayer money by forcing these lawsuits, including a case his group recently filed after 5 different complaints came before the FEC involving both Republicans and Democrats accused of creating corporations to make illegal straw donations so they could hide who donated the money.
We thought, slam dunk. We thought this is one instance in which the FEC will certainly crack down and discourage this type of illegal behavior. Nope, deadlock vote.
Another group is suing the agency after they say it did not investigate complaints alleging a CEO tried to coerce his employees into attending political rallies and donating money to his favorite candidate.
This is illegal, and we should have investigated this case, and we didn't, and we're being sued over it.
FEC commissioners Ellen Weintraub and Ann Ravel say they agree that the FEC is not doing its job, a job specifically created to prevent another Watergate, the campaign scandal that forced President Richard Nixon to resign.
If you had a complaint at the level of Watergate come before the commission right now, would it even investigate?
I do not believe that it would investigate. I think we have had some complaints that are serious violations of the law, and always there has been some excuse for saying that we should not investigate, and so we've been unable to get 4 votes to do so.
Both Ravel and Weintraub are Democrats and say they can't get anything done because the 3 Republican commissioners routinely vote as a bloc against investigating.
We make our decisions based on what we think is a correct read of the law.
Matthew Peterson is the FEC's Republican chairman. We caught up with him at their last public meeting.
I'm not asking my colleagues, and I can't, in good faith on my own behalf, say that I'm going to decide differently than what I think the correct legal interpretation is or what the correct outcome in this particular case is, just because there's a threat of a lawsuit.
In my view, they're really putting themselves in the position of judges. They're deciding, rather than leaving it to the courts, they're deciding we don't like these laws, we think they're unconstitutional, we're not going to enforce them. That's the real problem here.
So what do you think? Go to our NBC Washington Facebook page. There you can read the complete investigation, and we want to hear, do you think the FEC is broken, or do you think it's doing its job? And if you do think it's broken, what would you do to fix it? Tisha Thompson, News 4 I-Team.
Well, the FEC just lost a lawsuit today that was filed by one of the groups. Now, the agency says it can't comment on litigation, but if you want to read more about the commissioner's positions, you heard Tisha mention our app. Just head on over to NBC Washington and click on Investigations.